What is up, guys? This is Linthio coming at you with a discussion today about the Yu-Gi-Oh game and the price that it costs to play this game. So with the new set that's now been released, Docs, Dimension of Chaos has brought a couple of money cards in, and also with the future product that's going to be coming out, aka the Pendulum deck, it's kind of made the game be a little bit more expensive than what it was. But then leads to discussion, how expensive is this game to play? Now a lot of people have been saying this, we're now coming into one of the most expensive formats around in a while and all this stuff, and while it is expensive, with Eccentric Archfiends being like £50, Dark Destroyer being like £70, you know, Farm Girl being like £40, all these cards are pretty pricey for what we consider a meta deck. And one thing that I kind of don't understand is, I think maybe it's people who haven't played the game all that long, or maybe they've forgotten about, but this is still a pretty cheap format considering what we've had in the past. If we go back to when Tour Guide was at its largest, that card was about £100–120 for one, and you needed 3 of them. If we go back to Teledad, that was such an expensive time for this game. Dark Arm Dragons being like £200, Allure of Darkness being like £40. Like, everything was so expensive, and not too long ago as well, the Spellbook format, Judgment was like £80–100 as well. Formats like this come around, and I think that people have just got a little bit complacent in the fact that the last couple of formats have been pretty cheap, but there's been a reason for that. The deck that you would play, for example, Satella Knight, Shadow, Burning Abyss, all these decks were pretty, you know, you could get them for about £150, £200. That's because the Forbidden Unlimited list was so irate, we didn't know what was going to get hit, so people didn't value the deck so highly, because otherwise it would be a waste of money. We didn't know when we're going to actually get the list, so we didn't know when it was going to get hit, and therefore it just impacted on the secondary market. This game has always been expensive, and people will take solace in whichever way they want to play it. And there's a funny thing that came up, that someone's put a GoFundMe for $1,000 for a Cosmo deck, which is pretty sad. The format that we're in now, and the format that we're going to be going into, is not going to be that expensive. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not loaded, I'm not rich, right? I just kind of pick and choose. As you see what decks I play, I pick and choose my favourites, and I might go out and get more of an expensive deck if I really like it, but I'm not all that too bothered. If format is expensive, then you will deal with it in the way that you want to. If you want to play competitively, and you want to play this game, and you want to do well, and you want to pick up the tier 1 decks, well, then that's unfortunately what comes with the turf. You have to pay these big prices for it, or big trades, to get these cards, because that's just how it is. If you don't want to pay those prices, then there are other decks that can still compete for the meta, but you might say it's a little bit harder to play with because you need to really know the ins and outs, and you need to know the meta better. Overall, my opinion, this format isn't that expensive. And don't forget that we have the Pendulum deck that's coming out next set, and you know, you pick up 3 of them, chuck in a couple of cards, and you've got a meta deck. In January next year, we've got the Monarch deck coming out, and you know, that's a pretty ridiculous deck as well, that's very, very cheap. Don't really need all that much. You only need the field spell if it's going to come over to us. I think it was an OCG exclusive, but if that field spell comes out, that deck's tier 1, it's done. There's always going to be big prices in this game, and there's always going to be expensive formats, and there's always going to be ones as well where there's a slight dip. Now that we've had this Forbidden Limited list that's kind of cleared off a lot of the decks, bar, you could argue, Satella Knights, the new cards that are coming out are going to be more pricey because more people want them. And that's simply just how it works. I don't think it's something that we should really be arguing about. I don't think it's something we should really be complaining about, because there are so many worse formats for pricing in the past that this is kind of a bit of a breeze, if I'm honest. Now, I'm not going to be buying out for these, you know, Dark Destroyers and this Cosmo deck, or this maybe Magic Spectres, but when they go down a little bit, because I quite like how fun it is. But I don't have a big urge to get these decks, and if you do, then fair enough, but you have to understand that comes with the territory of this game. You're going to have to pay these big prices. So I want to know what you guys think of the format. Do you think it's a really expensive format, or are you thinking, same long lines as me, that it could be so much worse? So as I said, let me know down in the comment section below. Make sure to give me a like, comment, subscribe, and I should catch you guys later.